Welcome to episode 4 of Snape Chat, the Snarry Edition. First we'll be discussing the Snape-Harry fanfic pairing. Then I interview the excellent author, Danpuff. Fair warning, we'll be discussing sexual situations and using explicit language. If you are easily offended, you may wish to give this episode a miss. For everyone else, let's get started. So, yes, this is Snapecentric, along with Megs.
Hello.
She's the star of...
Care of Magical Shippers. Yeah, star. Woo, woo, woo. Care of Magical Shippers podcast. But also here, just like whenever I can. I love it.
And we're also joined by the lovely author, Danpuff.
Hello.
Today, what we're going to be discussing is Snarry, which is a relationship between Snape and Harry.
My OTP.
Yes.
It's
My one true love.
That's great. I've read quite a bit of Snarry in the last few weeks just to get ready for this.
Nice.
Do you ship it yet?
Snarry.
I'd like it. I think there's wonderful stories. It's not my OTP.
That's fine. Yeah, exactly. We can appreciate
it's up there. It's up there. It's like, okay, if I hear a rec for, a good story, I'll go for it.
Awesome.
Yeah. Anyway, wanted to discuss a little bit first, actually, is slash, which is male to male relationships in fic. So
yeah, like the appeal of slash, right?
Yeah.
Like
right.
Yeah, so I was doing a little bit of research on this actually because I remember reading some article somewhere about diving into it. But as far as slash from like straight female point of view, like a lot of way back when, like the start of like Star Trek, shipping, it was kind of women for women, like romance novels sort of thing. And the appeal of like male relationships is kind of like you don't have, because they're the males in society, they don't have the pressures or conflicts that women do. So like their stories don't have to be so, I don't know, it's like weird to say. But then also especially for the physical side of things, like they just like that. I mean, sex is very straightforward. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, this is the way you do it. And you don't have to think about it. And with women, there's a lot of work involved. I mean, it's just is what it is. Like, it's like, I can't imagine writing like a het or a femme slash scene. I'm like, this would take 2 days. Like, I don't know. Like, and I think like a society thing of like feeling like if you have insecurities, like for women, getting women out of a story, it gives you that sense of escapism to not feel like you're putting yourself in the story. You're just kind of like an observer. And so then creating it around 2 men, you don't feel, I don't know, it's like, it's hard to describe, but you can kind of put yourself in a position of power because most of the time, like men have it easier. They have more, power in their world, or they're more the most interesting quote unquote characters that we're given, which isn't like our problem. It's the fact that what content was put before us, we have more guys to work with, or their stories were developed more. So we want to like play with them. So like with Harry and Snape, we know obviously a ton about Harry, and then the conflict with Snape over time, like we want to bring them together. And then it's easy for us to get into the misogyny type of things, or like the scent of like masculinity and being able to demasculine. I don't know, like, whatever. Like give emotion to what otherwise we would see as like very emotionless. Like when it comes to like gay relationships, like I've friends that a lot of times it's harder to find emotional ground in comparison to physical ground, which is just the way things are. So us being able to invest emotion and passion and just going at it to go at it, like and then as women authors, then we can be like, okay, now we're the dude and we get to like rail this other dude, and it's like we're just like self-insert. So it's a lot of fun. So, sorry about all that, but
oh no, that's great.
I like that you have actual reasons behind things, and I'm just over here like, it's hot.
It's hot. No, it is. No. Yeah. Yeah, no, I
I
was
don't
doing
think too hard about it. I'm just like, I enjoy this.
Yes.
And I roll with it.
Exactly. No, it's so I'm getting blushy just thinking about
Oh,
it.
no.
I'm like, oh gosh, because that was Nathan and I were talking about how like when we're picking ships for our podcast, we just have a list a million miles long of slash fic, and we're like, oh my god, this is gonna be Care of Magical Slashers before we know it. So it's
New name.
Yep, exactly. We're like, okay, we got to get other stuff in there. So we're doing our best. But obviously, there it goes. Like the most popular stuff is there's just more slash content out there than there is. At least like AO3 specific is really popular for slash authors and things like that.
Versus het.
Yeah. Like fanfiction.net, I think has a lot more variety. So yeah, that's what I know about that.
That's great. There was a recent survey of basically the Snapedom on Tumblr, and it showed only a quarter of the respondents identify as het. And also there was a variety bisexual and asexual were actually the top two.
Oh, wow.
And then het, and then gay or homosexual. A lot of different things. So maybe it's giving the reader a chance to explore their sexuality.
100%. Yeah, especially if you're in a position that you can't feel like you are, can be yourself or what you wish to be able to escape into a world or create a world in which would be your perfect reality. It has to be a thing. Absolutely.
That is interesting to think about, but like I identify as asexual myself. And I actually kind of came to grips in learning more about the community through fanfic because I live in a very rural area where there's not a lot of diversity. So a lot of my learning came from the internet and reading and getting to know things. And though there's not a lot of ace content out there, it's, I'm still drawn towards slash. And it did help me learn more about different types of people just from all the people around the world contributing to this community. And it wasn't the Harry Potter fandom, but Supernatural actually that brought more to my attention, like demisexuality and more about asexuality through that. So yep, there's just it helped me. So.
Absolutely.
And here I'm going to be the late bloomer. No, hang on. Water.
Oh yeah, I forgot to grab water. Water. I don't need it.
Oh no. That was the first thing I grabbed because I knew I was going to be thirsty.
Yes, we are thirsty.
Oh, we are.
We so thirsty.
That's why we're here.
Yes, this is a rated E podcast, right?
It is, yes.
Good, we can finish.
Okay, I was trying to I was thinking, so part of the slash thing is like for another part of the women point of view is like, we want to know what it's like to have a dick.
Yeah.
And like just like knowing what it's like for like, like two guys, it's like, oh man, like it's just like, yeah, it just gets to, I don't know, whatever. It just
it's fun to think about.
Yeah.
It's
exactly.
Curiosity.
To have that power, that you don't normally, I mean, obviously you can still have power, but, to just pound somebody.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking about different body parts. It's
yes.
fine.
Yes. Yep. Yes. Mm-hmm.
There has been some discussion of strap-ons with Snape on Tumblr, well, pegging him specifically.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
I guess, yes. That's women exploring having a dick as well.
Oh yeah, that's definitely a fantasy.
A good one.
Yeah. Oh,
great. And then Snarry specifically, I wasn't really into slash at all. A couple times I got story recommendations and so I'd read it occasionally, but it didn't light my fire, so to speak, I guess. Which everybody's got their own thing,
Meanwhile, I've always been a slasher myself. That's the only thing I read for ages.
yes.
So specifically the appeal of Harry and Snape together. What has drawn you both to that?
For something
It's
I've
hot.
been shipping for 18 years, I just fall silent. Well, I think it's just they have a lot in common in some ways, but they're very opposite in other ways. And I feel like they just can get on each other's levels and understand each other in ways that other people really can't. Like they both come from not great childhoods and they dealt with that in very different ways, but that's something they can connect on. And then their very strong connections to both Voldemort and Dumbledore in their various connections there, and then their experiences in the war and all of this trauma. And then it's just their interactions are always very intense, and they've always had very intense feelings towards each other that can be anger and hatred and passionate that can easily turn in a different direction. Very easily.
Absolutely. Retarget those emotions into let's yeah. So it's funny for me because, I mean, obviously, like, I love Snape as a character, obviously, and he's so complex. There's so many things about him we don't know, that we don't see behind the scenes, but in any fic that regards, is like Snapecentric, we get to like see in his head, so be able to like give him some emotional backstory that we only get a taste of in canon, like, oh, he cared for Lily and whatever. So the whole time he's protecting Harry, like supposedly for Lily. That's what draws me. It's like, okay, even though he has that animosity, I like the angst of the ship is why I love this ship. With Snape, the whole time he's protecting Harry and despises him because he has to balance the fact that he reminds him of Lily because he has Lily's eyes, but then he looks exactly like his childhood bully. So it's that conflict of like ignoring the positive aspects of Harry to let the negative ones come to light. But once we're able to break them down and like kind of Harry can get under Snape's skin and make him see more than just being Snape's son, I think is like really great. Then there's also like kind of like the like soulmate thing is huge within the fandom of like the the Patronuses. Snape having a doe not because of Lily, he has a doe to match up with Harry's stag. And then I kind of go with like the Twilight trope of like him being in love with Lily because eventually she has his soulmate, like she gives birth to a soulmate, kind of like the whole like Jacob Bella thing, right? It's so good. And just the angst of Snape being in denial for most fics, like throughout, like just trying to push Harry back, and whether Harry's like in denial too, or he's just like all up in his business, like trying to make things happen. Like it's so much fun. I just love I love the conflict. I just love the angst.
I agree. I love the conflict.
Oh, it's
yes,
so
for sure.
good. It's just like
that's a big draw.
As you said, Danpuff, like all that stress and energy can easily just go into sexy things, and it's awesome. I love it.
Yes, it's obsessive. It's passionate.
Yes.
Everything.
Also, yeah, I mean, it can be toxic, but it can also be super wholesome. Like it just, you get the full spectrum of.
And I love both.
Yes, exactly.
Both.
Mm-hmm.
I did want to come up with a few recs while we're doing this. And this kind of ties in, say, with The Boy Who Died a Lot, which is...
It's pretty canon, like, focus. Yeah. Like, it follows each year by year, Snape protecting Harry, and how frustrating and hilarious it is that he just keeps dying and he has to keep going back in time and just, like, make sure he doesn't die, and is just... So, of course, in the end, just the, the connection, they end up together. But, like, that one's fun because it's a canon adjacent, one of those stories that you can fit into that, that realm.
I did appreciate that aspect of it.
Yes. Yep. Like each chapter was a year, I think, if I'm correct.
I think you're right.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. And there is a podfic. So if anyone wants to listen to it, that's out there. So that's super fun. Yeah.
So, okay. We'll have some links up on the website, probably a whole page of them by the time we get done.
Oh, for sure.
Yes. Yes.
I'm trying to
All of the regs.
reel it in.
So that was protection to affection on our outline. The love for Lily. You did talk about it kind of transferring to Harry and with the Patronuses and such. And that was really good.
Yeah, I love the I love the Patronuses. That's like the best thing for me. It's just like, why Snarry? They're Patronuses, obviously.
So made.
Just look at that.
Exactly. Duh. Oh, their behavior toward each other? Is that what I think I'm looking at the outline. I'm trying to figure out where we're at.
Yeah, did we talk about confrontation and that can turn sexual and such so easily?
Eyebrows.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Eyebrows being a sexual thing.
Ooh.
Yes.
Those eyebrows.
Oh.
Sexy. I do love Snape solely communicating through his eyebrows.
Oh.
Yes. So he doesn't have to say a word.
Just that one brow. It is an art form.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I can only do one eyebrow. My other one doesn't do anything, but I can lift one, so I can be pretty, I can, be traumatic.
I cannot do that. It's both or none. No skill.
I got a little bit, but this will age me. I used to do it because of Spock.
Nice.
Yeah, when Star Trek was first syndicated, it was on in the afternoons after school. So.
Oh.
And that was probably my first passion. Hyperfixation, more like.
I can see that.
Yeah.
My partner's really into Star Trek, so I get it.
Uh-huh. So yeah, Harry, I'm kind of lost with this. Harry greater than Severus.
I think we were talking about how Harry behaves towards Snape and then like Snape backwards and then how that can drive the ship, I think. So like, how we see Harry as a character like in stories is like, what is it? I wonder what the Snape aggression. I don't know. It's funny because we talked about all this and I'm like trying to go back and like, what the heck were we talking about? Treats him like a regular person. Oh, so So with Harry and Snape, something about that we see with Snape is he doesn't worship Harry. He's one of the few that like isn't holding him up on a pedestal. Like he's obviously cutting him down and like aggressive towards him, but it's someone that he could see as like, you're actually like treating me as just a person, not as the boy who lived or the boy who's, the chosen one. And then his, confusion of why the heck does Snape hate me so much? And what did I do? I didn't do anything. And like we see in canon, finally toward the end, that he sees Snape's memories and he's able to understand where he's coming from and the fact that, it's like a lot of Snarry fic starts or has a lot of substance in like 5th year when he sees Snape's worst memory, because he actually can find that empathy and sympathy for Snape by seeing firsthand the Marauders and how they behave toward him. So that can often changes Harry's perspective to then being like, you know what, like I get it, and then they fall in love and live happily ever after.
Yes.
But
I do love occlumency as the driving force and being that switched flip. I mean, yeah. Flip switch, yes.
Yes. So I think that is really powerful, is when we can get the point where they can, Harry can like sympathize or empathize with him. And then the opposite side of things, like it's just, I kind of covered it before, like he feels what he feels because of the conflict of his two parents, and he has conflicting emotions to each way. Like he has strong, passionate love or affection for Lily, and then really strong, passionate hatred for James. So making a blend of the two just has to leave him so angry and sad and sexually frustrated. And it's just got
and confused.
So confused. And that's why he's grumpy, because he can't like do anything about it. Like he's just like, no, like I just, he's just living his, his difficult existence. But, we fix that in fic. We'll give you your happily ever after.
With Harry.
It's only fair.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Power dynamics. That usually, from what I've seen, I believe this is what we're talking about, is that Snape is usually the top and Harry the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
I'll read it either way.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know it goes the other way too.
Popularly, yes.
Kind of probably stemming from the student-teacher relationship.
Yeah, because we see some one side of things, like that's the like really like passion aggressive, type like relationship of like obviously like Snape was like this mean, angry, prickly person, and then Harry we just see as like it's like, oh, like I picture super tall Snape, like tall, skinny, lanky Snape, and then like little Harry, and it's just like looming over him and just like being able to overpower him but also be very sweet. But then you also could see Snape having grown up without any affection. Like when you think about it, like he had a short-term friendship with Lily. His parents had, abusive, negative home through school. He was bullied all through school. The fact that eventually Harry might, give him the affection he never received, like I could see him kind of like regressing like to being the one open and waiting for comfort that he never had. So then having Harry be like the dominant one over Snape, like I could see him like kind of like letting go and letting Harry do his thing. And yeah, I don't know. It can go either way, and both can be written super well, and I'm totally down with anything.
I think anything has the potential to be written well, so that's why I try to be really open to things. But especially with the idea of like Snape bottoming, I do like the idea of, one, it's a preference, so it doesn't even need to have an emotional connotation. So it's like him being very strong and being just like, hey, this is just what I like in the bedroom. So, but also on the other hand, the idea that if not, like I feel like he would need a level of trust to be able to do that. So it speaks to what Harry means to him and his ability to let go and having someone he can trust to do that with.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, trust is huge. And for me, because I've written like a time travel where, of course, we read a lot of that. Like Harry goes back in time, gets to know Snape when he's younger, and they fall in love at that point. I usually see and have written like Snape being, because he's kind of broken as a youth. Like he's, in actively being bullied and doesn't have a place or a home. He doesn't find that until he joins the Death Eaters like later on. So I picture him as like young Snape being the bottom and then older Snape being the top. Like that's like my flip. Like when they're both the same age younger, I'm like, oh yeah, okay, like Snape's the bottom, and then when they're older, it's like, okay, yeah, Snape's overpowering Harry and whatever. So that's just how I like picture that dynamic, like for what I envision and write. And then when I read it, I'm like, oh yeah, this is great. Oh yeah.
Snape is a very powerful wizard. At the end of his time, being able to fly and just do things wildlessly or wordlessly. Harry is also powerful, but I don't think he feels that way.
Yeah, because I can see Snape kind of seeing his potential and trying to like build him up and realize like you're more powerful than you think you are. And it could go, the opposite way. But yeah, I love when Snape is trying to like help prepare him for the the war that's coming and help keep him as safe as he can, because of course he cares for him and knows the inevitable that's going to happen, but he's going to do and provide whatever he can to keep him safe and give him the best, opportunity to survive and whatnot. And yeah, for sure.
I do like the idea of them both being very powerful wizards, and like Snape's very, very talented and very intelligent. Like he's created spells. He's like fixed potions. Like Harry's not the highly intellectual, book smart type. And I like the idea that they're both very gifted. And Harry's smart in his own way. It's just a different way and very intuitive and very hands-on learning, and how they complement each other in those ways.
But a lot of potential there, especially with Snape teaching him and building him up and giving him that best chance, because who else can really get him on that level other than someone who's also very gifted in that way?
Because Harry's the one who's like gonna run into the fire, and Snape's like gonna be looking around it, trying to find the best possible route to like handle the situation. And I can see Harry being like knowing he's powerful and being reckless, because he's like, I get out of everything. Like I'll be fine. And Snape's like, no, I have all these powers too, but I have to, pick and choose. And there are things you just like, just because you can doesn't mean you should, and all that. And so, and then of course, you have the age difference. So it's like the amount of life and experience that Snape has over Harry, like the constant like back and forth of like, you don't know, like it's just, yeah, it's fun to see them like growing together. So like seeing Harry grow up, and then Snape being able to kind of go back and like rewrite his like history of like getting the life that he didn't have, like even though it's like later in life.
To help him heal his inner child.
Yes, exactly.
Which he needs.
Probably the biggest thing that draws me to Snarry is like when you get into long fic, like there's great like short little fic out there, but having the long game of seeing Snape break down and like Harry get under his skin, and just slowly letting Snape thaw and open to the idea of them being together, like because you just get that angst long term, and then at the end you're just like, yes, finally. Oh my gosh. Like I don't know. Like I'm usually like, the slow burn of it is so good, because you just the whole time you're just like, oh my God, guys, just kiss already. just kiss already. Oh my God. Oh, it's so good.
I do love a good slow burn, but I can't read works in progress very often because I'm very impatient. So I just need to know and be able to like run through it. But I do like a good long fic where you see everything unfold and develop, especially when they're starting from like the polar opposite end, where they start off in that really hateful, negative place, and then transforming through working together or some other necessity to bring them together, and slowly getting to know each other and breaking down those walls and coming together. It's so beautiful. I love it.
Yeah. And I feel so added at right now because I've had this work in progress fic for like, it's been 4 months since I've touched it, but I was going ham. Like I was like every week was like new chapter, and then all of a sudden I was like, oh, I'm gonna do all these writing fests, and then it just absorbed my life. And I need to get back to that so that Danpuff can read
like,
it.
No shame as a writer, like I understand, but as a reader, I need to know what's going on, or it's gonna drive me insane.
Fair. Oh yes, no, I don't read like work in progress like ever. I filter it out because I think there's only a couple that I just happened upon and started not knowing they were work in progress, because someone's like, oh, this fic is really good, so I'm like, sweet, I'll start reading it. And then I reach the end and it's like, I don't know when I'll update again. I'm like, God damn it, like why did I do this to myself?
I've been hurt by works in progress in the past, so there's very, very, very few that I actively follow now. But they're really good and worth the wait.
Well, yeah, well, that's the thing. That's like Pacify. Yes. Like we haven't talked about Pacify. Pacify is one of the biggest Snarry fic epic multi-book yabba blah that has just amazing. But Chicken Pets, the author, has always been really good, even under stress or whatever, to get us chapters out like every week, so we can always rely on her. A superhuman. I don't even know how she functions. Like I'm like, oh, you're married, okay, do you see your husband? Like I'm trying to like balance. I'm like, okay, I write and I have a podcast and I'm also married, and we're just like, how do you life? And it's just amazing. So if anyone's out there who hasn't read Pacify, definitely do that. It's a work in progress. However, there are 6 complete books, so hundreds of thousands of words that you have available to you, and it's It's fantastic. I think it was my first Snarry I came across and was like, oh, oh my. I'm like, this is everything. So, because I was a Drarry shipper forever. And then once I read that, I was like, oh god, this is so much better. Like, I still love Drarry like so much, but this is, oh god, I just getting all worked up about it.
It's the first newer fic that I really fell in love with, because for a while, like, I've been in shipping Snarry for 18 years now. And so like I like inhaled them, and now I just got to a point where I was like jaded, and like there's like I've read all the good things and I don't want to try new things anymore. And I just was looking one day, and even though I rarely read new things, I didn't read works in progress. Like there was a lot that should have like put me off of it, but for some reason I clicked on it, and now I'm obsessed with it. I run the Discord server, like big fangirl. I went and stayed over fanfic.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Being able to like interact with Chicken is just probably the weirdest and coolest and most basic thing on the planet. Just like, yeah, we're just normal people just hanging out at home, living our lives, and just putting out some amazing, sexy content.
And that's the fun thing, is being able to interact with other creators and seeing their processes and knowing when they're coming out with new things, and just having like a community of people all around this fandom and this ship and the thing that we love.
Exactly. And you can be as genuine as you want to be, or as not. Like, you have the anonymity of being whoever you wish you were, or what you can put out as much as you want or as little as you want to build and get out of it what you need. But especially through this, the pandemic nonsense, like being on Discord and in fanfic servers has just like saved me. Like, it's just been amazing to have that space when you can't really be with, other people. And it's just, but yeah, it's just, fan fiction and people and things and Snarry and blah. It's just fun. We have fun.
Yes.
We have so much fun.
A Tumblr post came by my dashboard a few months ago. It was 21 Snarry fics for 21 years.
Ooh.
Oh, yes.
So I'll post the link to that.
Because it was like one story for like, yeah, like the
for
like
each year.
Back to 2000 or whatever. So it's like, yeah, 2000 release, 2001, 2002. So either, I don't know if it was like most popular or just like fan favorites or something like that. But I remember that link and I had it saved somewhere and I've just had no time. But
I have not seen it.
I wonder,
but I want to.
I wonder, Danny, like if you looked at the list, if there were more than fic that you had read versus not. I mean, that would be cool to see, having been involved.
As long as I have, yes.
Yeah, 18 years. Wow. Like, I just feel like a baby. I feel like such a little baby. But I'm so passionate. Yeah.
You make up for it with your passion.
Exactly.
Yes.
Where was this listed? Was it on Reddit? Tumblr?
Tumblr.
Oh,
I found a Reddit link.
Oh, well, I'm sure. Hey, I mean, it's probably multiple places.
I have a side blog where I put all my things that I want to refer back to.
Oh, nice.
So I will dig it up and put it on the show notes.
Well, since I'm looking at this, the one I pulled up, it for 2001, it has A Most Disquieting Tea by Telenu. And I just reread the Tea series, and it's often touted as being the fic that really brought Snarry mainstream. And you can only find it on a Google Drive now, but it's well worth the read. And I love that one.
Can you spell that for me, please?
Yeah, I can get that link.
Gimme.
But that was really good. Snape the Home Fries Nazi, also excellent. That was from 2006.
That was the one that I took off that list to read.
It's really good.
And I really enjoyed it. Yeah. It sounds weird, but I don't know. It's just very heartwarming at the same time.
Was that the one where Harry and Snape like lose their magic?
Yes.
And there's like somewhere in like in the US, right? Somewhere like in Arizona or something.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yep. So definitely very weird and different than our normal like Snarry situation. But yeah, very AU, that's for sure.
It's really, and I don't usually like ones that take place like in the States or anything. So that kind of put me off of it for a while. But when I finally read it, I was like, oh my God, this is so good. And it, like that angst that I love so much. It's like good.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Any last words for anyone?
Read Snarry. You won't regret
Yeah,
it.
read it now.
Just read it.
Yes.
And definitely check out Danpuff because her stuff is amazing.
Oh, thank you.
So much
Yes.
fun stuff.
There's a lot of
Mhm.
that out there. Lots of options.
We'll be interviewing Danpuff here as well. So,
Yay.
yeah. Okay. Well, thank you everyone for being here. Danpuff and Megs,
You're
Care of
welcome.
Magical Shippers
Mhm.
podcast, and we will have links to all their things on the notes. So, okay. Thank you much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Bye.
Bye. Thanks to Danpuff and Megs for chatting with me. I neglected to mention that Megs is also a fine author in her own right. Megs and Danpuff's fics, and all the fics discussed here, will be on the Fanfic Recs page on our website, snapechatpodcast.com. Now let's get to my interview with Danpuff.
Hello.
Thank you for recording our discussion section with us as well.
Yes, it was fun. I hope it went okay.
Oh, I think so. Yeah.
I don't trust myself talking, so
Well, me neither, but I do it
we'll
anyway.
muddle along. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's still fun.
Yeah. I'm here with Danpuff. She's a wonderful artist. We're going to talk particularly about her snarry stories. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm 29 years old. I live in Louisiana, have an office job, big giant nerd. And more relevant to this, I guess, in the Harry Potter fandom, I'm a big, what I like to call snarry monogamist. So I ship snarry and I don't like them with anyone else. I love them so much. So
That's great.
yeah.
So how did you come into the Snapedom?
The Harry Potter books came out when I was about 5 years old, and I don't really remember being 5 years old, but probably that was around the time I started reading the books, and I don't really remember a time before Harry Potter, and I've always, from book one, loved Snape from the get-go.
That's great.
So from day one, little Danny loved Snape. And has never stopped ever.
He's such a wonderful character that just makes sense.
He's very intriguing, very complicated, very intense. I loved it and still do.
Yes. Have you always been a writer?
Yes, like I said, I've always been a big reader, been reading since around the time Harry Potter came out, and have been writing as long as I had a pencil in my hand. I wrote a lot of like original stuff when I was very young, and then got into writing fanfics when I was a teenager. So I don't really remember not being a writer.
Now you get to look at me. I'm sorry about that.
Nothing wrong with that.
What is your favorite, format or form to write?
I write a lot of one shots, mostly shorter things. I just have these random ideas that don't necessarily fit into a larger story, or they could, but I'm more focused on this one thing that I want to write about. So primarily I write shorter form stuff, just trying to get all of my thousands of ideas out into the world.
I have really enjoyed reading them.
Well, thank you.
What brought you to Snarry?
Well, that is actually a very funny story. So I've always been into Harry Potter, and I've been shipping Snarry for 18 years. So I was about 11 years old when I was on the internet, just Googling Harry Potter. I was not looking for anything. I was just looking up Harry Potter. And one of the first things I clicked happened to be a fanfic. I didn't know what fanfics were. I didn't know what slash ships were. I didn't know anything. And the first thing I clicked on was a fanfic. And it was actually a Drarry fanfic. So that was Draco and Harry. And in that fanfic, Snape was interested in Draco. But my little brain was like, what about Snape and Harry? So once I finished that one Drary story, I don't remember what website it was, but whatever it was, I just went to the homepage and started looking up Snarry, and I inhaled it. I read nothing but Snarry from that point on. Just any fic I could get my hands on that was Snarry, I read it. So after that was it, I just Googled Harry Potter, clicked on a Drary fic, and then deep dived into Snarry.
That's great. Do you write other pairings or fandoms?
I have written other fandoms in the past. Usually I like hard focus on one thing at a time. So I have written Marvel in the past. So in Marvel, I shipped Steve Rogers and Tony Stark. I did write for Stormlight Archive by Brandon Sanderson. I wrote a few things for that. Within the Harry Potter fandom, I've written Drawn, which is Draco and Ron, for Drawn Fest. I wrote Cho Luna for Luna Fest. I wrote a Percy Neville, kind of dabbling, but I don't write anything else as much as I write Snarry. But I do like trying other things out now and then.
That's good to have a variety of
the spice of life, they say.
Yep. You're writing quite a wide range of styles, from fluff and PWP to quite angsty stories. You also address a range of unusual and controversial topics like male pregnancy, daddy kink, and dubious consent. Do your stories just emerge, or do you start with the idea to explore an issue?
Kind of both. With some of the bigger items like the daddy kink, it's oh, well, that's interesting. Can I do something with that? And then other things like the male pregnancy, it's just, okay, well, I have this idea, and then that fits into it. So it just depends. I have so many ideas happening all the time. So I'm constantly thinking of things. What about this? What about that? What about this?
Oh, gee.
I like to write a lot of different things.
It's great to have so much inspiration.
Oh, it's not so easy sometimes.
I suppose, yeah.
Going on, I'm like, I want to write this, but I also want to write that, but also this thing and also that. So then I write nothing. It's just wherever my muse takes me at any given time. She's not always cooperative.
There was one of your stories that I really was taken with. 2 + 2 = foursome. It's such an inventive premise. James and Lily are kept alive in their graves through a life bond with Harry. And one of the few forms of consciousness they have is through strong emotions and sensations in Harry. And suddenly they realize that the sensations are from
his fun
Snape
with Snape.
fucking Harry.
Yes.
Yeah. Where'd that idea come from?
I always I love the angst. I love complicated. I'm very into voyeurism, whether intended or not. So I love thinking of, imagine if Lily and James found out, and trying to think of ways where they could find out whether they're alive or watching from the afterlife, and just always thinking of these things. And I'm on a Discord server with other Snarry fans. So I was just spitting out the ideas on there and talking to other people, and it seemed to interest some people. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to write this. So that night I just sat down and wrote it and posted it. It was very just boom, boom, boom.
Well, I don't know. I just loved it.
Yeah, it's I always think of that as one of a weird one, so to speak. I feel like the premise might be a little cringe to some people, but it was a lot of fun for me, and I thought it was very unique, and I know a lot of other people have enjoyed it, which makes me really happy because, like I said, I had so much fun, and that's a good thing, is writing should be fun, and it was one of those I was just able to enjoy start to finish and kind of building it and sharing it with my community. So that was fun. The title is unfortunate, but I am very bad at titling things. So I was just like, this is what it is, I guess.
It was attention getting.
That's true. It probably drew some people in, thankfully.
Would you be willing to read a passage from your work?
Sure. Since we were just talking about 2 + 2 = foursome, I can do a bit from there.
Okay.
I am not a narrator. That is not where my talents lie, but so you'll have to put up with my me voice, but I can read a bit of it.
So it kind of starts out with talking about Lily and James's situation, and that's kind of where we'll drop in here with the fourth option was simultaneously the best and the worst. Visiting Harry. They could not always control when they visited Harry. Heightened emotional states on his end made it easier, which meant the majority of the time was awful. They bore witness to their child sobbing in his cot while his aunt doted on his cousin. No cuddles or kisses for Harry, only the bare minimum meeting of needs. The very bare minimum as he grew older. Locked in the cupboard, often as not, muscles cramped from work, stomach cramped from hunger, jerked to wakefulness by his aunt's screeching, shouted at and shoved by his uncle, mocked and smacked by his cousin. After a full decade, the wonderment of Hogwarts made a nice reprieve, joy and friendship and magic. No more hunger or darkness for their Harry. Of course, Hogwarts came with its own perils, namely dragons and basilisks and dementors and more, whispers and stares and accusations, the threat of Quirrell and Crouch, the malice of Snape and Umbridge. They watched it all unfold and kept a list of every person they would hex if they ever crawled out of their graves. Every near-death experience put strain on their remaining life force. There were stretches of time lost to unawareness. Only Harry's life gave them any sense of passing days and years. Nearly 15 years in the ground, the summer Harry turned 16. Lily and James felt closer to life than ever. Emotions came more readily, hit the heart all the harder. Sensation crept in as well, sharing sensation with their son. Wounds, unsurprisingly, but also chocolate on the tongue and the warmth of a hug. It was for the best if they woke soon, for both were ready to pummel Severus Snape. So there's that, and then it's mostly filth, so I won't go any further than that.
It's a wonderful story.
Well, thank you. Like I said, it's one of my prides and joys.
Yeah, well, we will link, I guess, should we do the 5 that you gave me? Either that or I can just link to your whole page on AO3.
Yeah, that can work too. Either way works for me.
Okay.
Or I can pick different stories if you want it. Whatever works for me.
Well, I like those. And they, like you said, they were representative of quite your range.
Yeah, that's what I was looking for. I was like, a little this, a little that.
Yeah, it's perfect. So
good. Well, I'm glad. Okay. Like I said, I'm all over the place with what I'm doing any given day.
Sure. What are your future plans for the boys?
That is the question. Like I said, I've got so many ideas all over the place. The only really firm things I can really say are I do want to write more for my Daddy series, Yes Daddy. I have one I want to write tentatively titled Good Daddy. And then I have a story that has one chapter up called Smile with Sweet Surprise. I wrote that as a birthday gift for a friend, Chicken Pets, but I only have one chapter up so far and it's supposed to be 3 or 4. So I need to finish that hopefully this year. If she's listening, Chicken, I'm sorry. I promise I will finish writing it. But mostly my plans involve angst and filth per usual.
Oh. That's all right. That's what people enjoy. So
I sure hope so, because I sure enjoy writing it.
Yeah. Where can people find you online?
Mostly on AO3, Danpuff. I don't do a lot on Tumblr, but I do have a Tumblr, which is Danny-the-Puff. Danny the Puff on Tumblr.
Okay, well, thank you so much for joining us and sharing about your writing.
Well, thank you for talking to me. It was fun.
Okay. Take care.
All right, you too.
Okay. Yeah, that's pretty much it, I guess.
Nice and easy.
So, yeah. Thank you. I really appreciate you.
Sure. It was fun. I like the podcast so far. So.
Oh, thanks.
You're
the first writer, so.
Yeah, I noticed lots of artists, so which I was glad about because I have new people I'm following on Tumblr now. I always love seeing more Snape stuff.
Oh, yeah. There are some wonderful artists and writers too.
So. Oh, yeah, trust me. Like I said, I always love Snape, so the more Snape, the better. So you're doing good work. Spreading the Snape love.
Trying to do that, yeah. Are you following me on Tumblr?
Am I? I think if not, then I need to do that.
Because I spend like as much time as possible reblogging artists and writers and stuff like that. So
I'm not always active on Tumblr, so I never know.
Sure.
Following now. Okay.
Okay. Oh, thank you.
I never know who I'm actually following anywhere.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, artists, writers, Snape love. That's what it's all about. So.
He deserves lots of love, so.
He does.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Take care.
All right, you too. Bye.
Bye-bye. And there you have it, another episode of Snape Chat. I hope that you will consider reading some Snarry if you haven't already. I myself want to finish A Most Disquieting Tea and continue to follow the Pacify series. I'll add that to my few dozen works in progress and hope I don't get too many updates at once. This podcast is also a work in progress, so please contact us with any comments or suggestions you may have. snapechatpodcast.com. Until next time, stay snarky.